Mogul Motivation, empowering and inspiring entrepreneurs and dream chasers worldwide, 1 week at a time. Presented by True Stories Media. And I am your host, Antoine Twiz Taylor. What you just experienced was silence. Silence can make you feel a lot of things. It can make you feel uncomfortable. It can make you feel confused. But I had to interrupt the regular scheduled program. You see, for those of you who listen to Mogul Motivation regularly, you were expecting me to say as soon as the intro was over, hello everybody, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Mogul Motivation. Welcome back. I'm happy that you are here. If this is your first time listening, this podcast is for the aspiring entrepreneur trying to get over that hump and make things happen. This podcast is for anybody with a dream that wants to go forward and accomplish that dream. This is episode 470. You was expecting me to say that, but I didn't. And when I didn't say that, you were confused. You probably thought it was something going on with the device that you were listening to this podcast on, your phone, your computer, your tablet. You thought something was going on with your volume. Nothing is going on, but I had to get your attention. You see, that's what happens when our regular scheduled program is interrupted. You know, you have been doing things a certain way for so long, and it may have been working for you for a good period of that time, but eventually things change. The world is always changing. We are never in a stagnant world. The world is revolving every single second on its axis and around the sun. Everything around us is changing. Technology, trends, sales markets, everything is constantly changing around us. So you cannot be one way forever. And when things change, you have to adapt if you want to continue to elevate. So in your life, whatever you have been doing, if you feel like you're stuck at a plateau, that's because you have to interrupt the program. You have to change things up. And the only way that you are going to realize that is when things get interrupted for you. Because see, if you don't have the awareness that things are changing around you and what you are doing in your business, in your personal life, or whatever you are striving for, if you don't understand that you are at a plateau and you're not getting any closer to what you are striving for, then God and forces around you that are greater than you is going to get your attention for you. You are going to be praying and you're not going to hear nothing from God. That doesn't mean God isn't working behind the scenes, but it's going to be silence. That silence is going to make you uncomfortable. That silence is going to make you confused. That silence is going to get your attention. But not only silence, the things that you have been doing is going to be interrupted. You see, the beauty of life and growth is we have to change our perspectives on things. You see, we think when doors shut, it's a burden to us. But we have to change our perspective and understand that when a door is shut, that means it's a blessing because it's protecting us from something. That's God working behind the scenes. We have to understand that if a certain faucet that has been fueling and supplying us for so long, if that faucet all of a sudden shuts off, we think that it's a burden. We think that things are not going well. We think that because we lost our job, we think that because we lost our car, we think that because the business has slowed down, that it's a bad thing. But we have to shift our mindset and realize that it's just simply an interruption to get our attention, to remind us that things have to change for the betterment of our future. So just because that faucet is cut off, just because your paycheck is no longer there, just because you have no car at the moment does not mean that you are going backwards. It means that your trajectory has to shift. Everything has to be interrupted for the betterment of your future and what you are striving for. We have to shift our mindset. Silence can make us uncomfortable. Our regular scheduled program being interrupted can make us feel confused, but it's all for the betterment of what we are trying to get at. I look over the course of my life and I look at how a lot of things were interrupted 7, 8, 10 years ago. Things that I was trying to do, things that I'm doing now. There are contracts I have secured in 2024 that I was trying to secure in 2014. Like real talk. But everything I was doing back then was interrupted by something. For whatever reason, it didn't work out. For that reason, for this reason, it was always interrupted. And I would pray to God and ask God, why am I not doing this? Why can't I get this big break? Why isn't this working out? And it was always silence. But then slowly but surely, I started to hear whispers from God. I started to see certain signs. People in my life started to disappear. Things, bad habits that I was engaged in started to dissipate. And as I continue to go forward, those gentle reminders and those whispers from God began to cut through that silence. And when I realized why things were interrupted, I'm like, oh, I had to change my trajectory because the world around me was changing. And if I really wanted to accomplish certain things, that change was necessary. So here I am 10 years later, 2024, securing the contracts in the field with the type of clients that I've been striving for in the first place 10 years ago. Here I am in 2024, closer to those goals that I was trying to accomplish 10 years ago. Because if God would have allowed those doors to open 10 years ago, I would have sabotaged the whole room. I would have tore that room up like a tornado in a bad way. That's why my program had to be interrupted. That's why it had to be silenced, because I had to discern for myself and get that clarity and understand that I was not ready. I was not mature enough. I was not skilled enough. I was not mentally and emotionally and spiritually prepared for what I wanted. And that's why you have to pardon the interruption, because you might not be ready for what you are striving for right now, but your trajectory has to shift because the world around you is shifting. You have to shift the people that you are surrounded by. You have to shift the people that you are living with. You have to shift the people that you are engaged with. You have to shift the way you think. You have to shift everything that you do if you truly want to get to that next level. And the silence is going to get your attention because you are going to be uncomfortable and you're not going to understand why you're uncomfortable, but eventually that clarity is going to set in and you are going to understand that it was all for a reason. So don't be too frustrated when you're praying to God for a certain blessing, for a certain goal, and you're not hearing back from God immediately. You're going to hear from God because God is still working behind the scenes. But when the time is ripe, that's when you're going to start to hear those whispers. Don't be frustrated when things that have been going steady for so long suddenly get interrupted and shift. Those things are being interrupted because you was at a plateau. You wasn't ascending in the first place. You hit a plateau and you just been going steady. But now the program had to be interrupted so you can go up and ascend to where you really want to be. So that's my message this week, everybody. Let's continue to work. Let's continue to imagine reality. Pardon the interruption. When the door is shut, when something is interrupted, when you hear nothing but silence, don't think that you're being punished. Don't think that it's always a bad thing. Shift your mindset and look at the good in it. Look at what you are being protected from and what you are being prepared for in the midst of that silence and that interruption. So if this podcast has benefited you in any way, shape, or form, I ask for two things as always. Number one, please leave a 5-star review. And number two, pass it on to a friend who may benefit from it as well. Have a great day, everybody. I'll talk to you next week.